Here we go. So as I said, tonight's session on the 2024 World Championships, which, as you all know, are being held in Edinburgh, will be led now by Sarah Dunn, who is the Development Manager and also Regional Development Officer for the Scottish Orienteering Association. Before I hand over to Sarah, we've got a quick poll for you all to get involved in straight away. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that. It should come up on your screens, and if you can take a moment to have a look at those questions on there and let us know what you think. How important is WOC 2024 as a development opportunity for orienteering? I think we have a biased audience, but here we go. I'll let you take those. Over to you, Sarah.
Okay, I'm just going to give people a chance to respond. I think yeah, well, I think the outcome is that, not too surprisingly and rather thankfully, we do have a biased audience here who feel it is an excellent opportunity to showcase orienteering, which is great, because if you'd all said why bother, then we might just have switched you off here. Now we believe we do have an excellent opportunity to showcase orienteering through WOC 2024, but what we feel is really important is that we start now to plan for what we can be doing, because we are really conscious that to be successful in achieving anything from it, we need good plans, and we need to get them in place well ahead of time. I can think back to almost exactly 2 years ago, and one or two of you may have been there in Dunkeld when we first mentioned WOC 2022. And at the time, I recall one or two people who were thinking, oh, that's an awful long way away, we don't need to worry about that yet. And then, well, everything changed anyway, but what was actually absolutely clear was that we did need to be on the case at that point to get things in place. And we were certainly very pleased that actually, from a development perspective, we had a couple more years to play with. The Scottish Orienteering staff team have been mulling this over actually now for the best part of a year. It's taken us this long to start forming a few more ideas. We got together with the BOF development team, I think it was around last March or so, and since then we've had a few more discussions trying to, both with members in Scotland and also internally, just to try and get a feel for what kind of things that people think we should be doing and how we might go about it. We felt now we needed to actually put some more concrete suggestions to people to hopefully gauge whether these are the kind of things that we can get buy-in to, and if they are, let's get moving on them. If not, where should we be going? We need to get that feedback now. So hopefully you've had a chance to look at the document that was circulated around ahead of this workshop. In case you haven't, I will do a quick run through on just 4 slides. I have promised it's not death by PowerPoint, before we get into discussions in breakout rooms and kind of give you a chance to all have your say about what you think. So I will share my screen and we'll have a look at that if I can share my screen. Is this coming up? Is that coming up for everyone? Yeah. Okay, Catherine, you've got a question. Unmute and tell me.
Sorry, that's just no question, just fat finger.
Okay, that's fine. Good. So we put in the document we circulated 3 specific project ideas, and we're going to use these as a basis for our breakout room discussions tonight. And we've allocated each of you to one of those rooms. So just a quick reminder of what these are about. The first one is a project that comes very much from the kind of grassroots work that in the SOA staff team we are trying to do a lot of the time in terms of working with partners and developing grassroots orienteering opportunities. And it's something that we felt we as a team could see mapping against the kind of projects we would be working on over the next few years in any case. That's not to say it's just for us to deliver, and it's the kind of thing that, again, it doesn't need to be just Scotland based. I'll make that clear now to anyone attending from south of the border. Absolutely, we believe there are opportunities across the UK, so we hope that some of you will get involved too, and pick up on some of these and feedback how you feel you could get involved as well. But this one was really to take advantage of the fact that in an urban setting we think we have potential to reach out to new people who don't normally get the chance to take part in orienteering, just because it's more accessible in various ways, both in terms of transport and also actually just to take part. You don't need to be an expert map reader necessarily to pick up a sprint map and have a walk around it, or to learn how to read a park map. It's much more open to getting involved for everyone and for different people. So we can see an opportunity there for reaching out to a new audience, and our idea was to not do anything necessarily particularly novel in terms of running summer camp type opportunities, but to have a pathway that's going to give a kind of motivational opportunity for participants in those, that if they come along to some activities next summer, then there might be an option for them to get invited to a kind of regional camp the following year, where they might go from something in their local town to something in Edinburgh or Aberdeen or Glasgow on a regional basis. And then from that, they might get invited in the following year to take part in a camp that's actually directly linked with the WOC week, and could be a very exciting kind of opportunity for them. So real kind of live, exciting opportunities to really get into the sport. I think a key part for us in this is also about involving more younger people in delivering that kind of coaching at camps like that, and we see it as a great opportunity to get more people trained up as coaches, and give them an opportunity to be paid to deliver in camps and to youngsters, so that it's not only something that they can enjoy doing, but they can actually afford to get involved in it as well. That's the basis of where we were coming from in our thought processes. Obviously, we're not putting a fait accompli out in any of these projects, so it's just for a starting point for discussion that we'd like to kind of put out there. That's probably the most firmed up idea that we have, and it's something, because it's something we see we could potentially do as a staff team. The others are more things that we would love to see clubs picking up and getting engaged with, especially this idea for a kind of control flag relay. And the idea stemmed from people's experiences of things like the Commonwealth Games and Olympic torch relays, where they just found it a really fun thing to be involved with. Something that could bring our existing orienteering community together, nurturing a bit of kind of team spirit in clubs, but also a great opportunity to reach out to media and promote them, and to showcase what's happening in Scotland and across the UK in orienteering. I think it could work on lots of levels. The format of what that might look like, I think, is really open for discussion, but it needs enthusiasm from clubs especially, I think, to make it happen and to move it forward. And then the third idea we put out there, I've had comments back that this is nothing new, in the sense, yeah, you might be right. There are incentivization schemes for participation already. We have badges if you do 5, 10 events, that kind of thing. But this is just to be a little bit bigger than that, something a little bit more special. And I think especially if we can link it in with WOC through use of branded kit, thinking more parkrun rewards, where, you know, actually getting your t-shirt is quite something and you can be really proud of wearing it. if we could come up with some kind of similar things for orienteering incentivization. And I believe there are a lot of people who would appreciate that, both in terms of a motivator for taking part, but also for those people who put in endless hours and days of their lives to volunteering. And this could be something, I think, in the participation context especially, that could be a good way again of bringing new people in, and on a local level, promoting participation through things like map run, permanent courses, as well as club activities, and getting involved in more traditional ways. Great for youth groups to pick up on something like this potentially, and all kind of work towards it together. But obviously there's costs associated with anything that's going to be handing out kit, either very cheap or free. So how would we fund things like that? And I think that's a theme that probably runs through all of these projects. If we're going to make them happen, is do we need to go out there and source funding? And if so, what are the options for doing that? So that's the kind of specific projects I'd like to discuss in the breakout rooms. But before we dive into those, just a few kind of feedback points that came from the survey that went around the Scottish clubs and members just recently to get their feedback on these ideas. I had 30 responses in total to that, mostly on an individual base rather than on behalf of clubs. There was a lot of enthusiasm and some great ideas that were put in there, but a kind of real mix in terms of responses, and that some people thought one idea was great and the others weren't, and vice versa. So there wasn't like one particular idea that was coming out as favoured by everyone to any extent. Without fail, I think everyone is commenting on the need for good publicity, marketing, and as much media exposure as we can manage to get from that. And I think that's something we're going to come back to later in this session this evening. So if we don't get a chance to discuss that over the next, in the first breakout rooms, we'll like to talk about that afterwards. And yeah, recognition that we're probably more talking about urban areas in terms of success of where we might hit with any work, but definitely not just Edinburgh. There's potential to reach out to, I think, anywhere in the UK to use the World Champs as a kind of tool to entice. Some clubs do already have some ideas and plans in place, and that's great to see that mapping out, and we hope that we can work with clubs who are already thinking about things and how they want to make them happen. Making sure there is activities there at the right times is going to be really key to success, and they need to be there after WOC as well as before and during. So there's no point in just getting to WOC and then dropping everything. We need to have a plan that's going to see us through beyond that as well. So those are things I think are really useful already to take on board. I'm sure we'll get more comments back from you all to add to those shortly. I'm not going to take up any more time just talking myself. We're going to move into breakout rooms. I will come into the room 1 about the kind of ideas for summer camps and new pathways into sport. Lorna Eads has kindly volunteered to take a lead in the breakout room on the control flag relay, and Anne Hickling is going to take a lead in the breakout room on the incentivisation schemes. So we're going to give 10 minutes in the rooms for that, and then we'll have hopefully a good 10 minutes to feedback and discuss them once we come out of that as well. We didn't have time to get too deeply into things, but I think there were a couple of sort of key things that came out, which was very much about the need for things, if we're talking about running camps for youngsters, how do we get the parents involved, and how do we build the link to the clubs onwards, and that being crucial to success, which I think is certainly true. And we know these questions always come up, and we need to find solutions to them. I think my response is, in a sense, we need clubs to recognise that and to be prepared to actually change what they do a little bit, or how they do things, to be open to taking advantage of these situations, but also that actually we, as a sport, yeah, we do need our long-term volunteers and whatever to get into mainstream sport, but also we want to be more inclusive to allow different people to get involved that maybe previously haven't had those opportunities, especially in urban environments. I think the other discussion we were just getting into at the end there was the benefits of having kind of group camp type situations for getting to know people and therefore bonding and building better relationships, and that actually is one way that is more likely to keep people interested and involved, and I certainly agree that that's an important part of things. Does anyone else want to add anything else in from room one? No? Okay, in that case I shall pass on to room two.
Hi, so ours was the flag relay, and I guess a bit like Sarah, I think we were just starting to get going. But I think we came up with two thoughts. One was you do it as a pinwheel effect with convergence on Edinburgh, because I think we eventually worked, it probably had to be done over sort of a 2 to 3 week time scale if you were going from round about the Scottish Champs or Scottish schools to WOC itself. It's probably only about a 2 or 3 week time, so it's not like something that's going to take the whole year to do. And then the other way was to thinking as make the whole of UK a giant orienteering map, and you would have kind of transport legs between sections where you would actually do a course around some urban, and then the transport legs would probably have to be some sort of environmental, either electric car or different forms of public transport to get between the courses that would be done by the local clubs. So I'm sure that there's probably somebody out there that would have great fun thinking of all the logistics of how to get from Aberdeen to to wherever, or from somewhere down in London to Birmingham to Sheffield, to link them all up by public transport, and then do a little urban orienteering course to get to the next transport leg. I think that's where we got to. Anyway,
I think that sounds like the sort of things we were starting to throw around ourselves. I wonder whether it does need to be in such a tight period leading up to WOC. I think it might be better to have a longer lead in myself. I guess if it's too long, then you lose the impact, but at the same time making it wider opportunity for.
Well, I guess it's a bit shorter, and it almost comes a bit more of a challenge aspect to it.
Can I just say, respond to what Lorna said, Sarah? In Edinburgh every year we have something, I think it was called the Convener's Challenge. It's called something else now, but basically the kids who do it come from schools, and they're given a free bus pass. And so, I mean, okay, we're okay in Edinburgh. We've got lots of parks, and they can go around from one park to another and do their orienteering course. It might be more difficult if you're in a less well provided area, but it's the same sort of concept, I think, Lorna, except it's on a relatively local scale.
Yeah, the general concept, do you think it's things your club would buy into? Have a thumbs up or thumbs up for definitely yes, or no response for not sure, or a thumbs down for definitely no?
No, some putting on the screen.
Yeah. I think it's the sort of thing, once it started getting fleshed out a little bit more, or people might start getting excited about it, kind of until they can quite get their heads around what it's about. They're maybe being, there was definitely mixed responses in in the survey feedback I had, and it was either kind of people thought it was a great idea, or they were like, I don't see the point in that. So yeah.
I was going to say, I could definitely see it being like, you know, fun and like, you know, for existing orienteers, good fun to get involved in it. And, you know, it is part of the sort of once in a lifetime sort of element of it. You know, it's not something we would do in sort of normal circumstances. So I think that's sort of, you know, the bit I like, I guess. What I'm not so sure about is, you know, other than being fun, you know, is the idea that it would be, you know, that this would get a lot of publicity, you know, like, you know, in the same way as I suppose the Olympic torch obviously gets publicity and handovers in different locations and so on. And I sort of feel it would have to be a format that would sort of be interesting to the media for it to sort of have an impact, you know, and I think, you know, in a way, I'm not sure we would get people into the sport because of it. And so that's why I sort of hesitate.
Yeah, Hugh, and I think we would really struggle to get kind of big media interest in something like that. But I think, to me, it might be about the clubs taking advantage of it at a local scale to get their local media interest and publicity for things that are happening locally. So if it was kind of being, you know, when it was your club's turn, you had something that it was an event or activity, school's activity or whatever that was being centered around it, then there would be quite a lot of good local opportunity for letting people know what's going on. To me, I think that's more likely.
Now, just chuck in another idea. Besides, obviously, public transport and e-transport, linking onto that, what about bikes and the bike community? Because I think that would really link our country parks together very well, because in the northeast, they're all off disused railway lines. So I think we could do a lot with that, especially in the north country where there's disused railway lines still and country parks off them. So you could do your Orient Footo mixed with a Biko onto the next Footo, and that might be a bit more media friendly. It's also fun and environmentally friendly.
Yeah, I think so.
The schools could get involved as well. The children could monitor the progress of the flag on the maps. I think possibly.
You could probably add a little GPS locator tag to the actual flag.
Yes.
Competition to guess the total number of miles travelled.
or we might need a whole set of flags. We might need to have parallel things going on, but you know, that would be fun. Yeah.
But they could link it to the convergence thing of converging on a point.
Quite a nice idea. I think we'll probably need to move on just now. I think this is one that it would be nice to get fleshed out more. Sometimes I'm not sure the best time or place to do that, but we can look into that. And do you want to just give us some feedback from your room?
We're also guilty of not really getting around to talking about the subject until we entered the last minute. And the reason we didn't I think was because I had two representatives of English clubs in my group, and so I asked them if people down there were excited about WOC, and they both said that really people don't really know about it. And, so I mean, there's obviously, we need to do a lot more publicity now that things are starting to pick up and getting organised again, and to get the word out there of what's happening and why we should all be excited about it and all that kind of thing. And that's certainly something we'll take back. But to talk about the incentive schemes, I mean, I think we all felt that, yes, they are useful things to do in terms of encouraging people to get involved, and people like getting the badges or whatever. So I think that's, yeah, that got a positive response, but we didn't really have time to say anything much more about it than that. Sorry. But unless Stuart or Martin or Walter come to that, would like to add anything that we didn't get around to saying previously.
One thing I sorry, my dog just kicked something off the one thing that I said when I filled in the Google form about the sort of WOC legacy was that, you know, if people are working towards something like, you know, WOC kit or whatever, then I think it would need to be distinctive, you know, so it's not like, well, I've put in however many 100 hours of volunteering, here's me and my nice WOC staff, oh, you could buy it over there for 20 quid, you know. So I think, you know, that to me would be part of the you know, of making it special. And I think that, you know, I think that might be good. I mean, I think like you said as well, Sarah, at the start, you know, in a way, you know, almost getting people to volunteer is sort of its own problem, and whether people really change the way that they volunteer or up the amount that they're volunteering because of this, I'm just not totally sure about that. I think in a way it's more rewarding people that already volunteer, probably, rather than getting people to volunteer more. But I mean, you know, even if it upped the volunteering to a certain degree, it would have served a purpose. And, you know, there'd be discussion about it, and like, oh, you know, you've got your WOC headband on, you know, you must be, you know, a dedicated volunteer. Well, you know, I think that's okay.
I think thinking back to,
I think even if it doesn't actually increase the volunteering, if people are happier that they've done it because they've been,
yeah,
that's good as well.
I think, you know, thinking back to 2015 when we had the last World Champs in Scotland, I think people were quite excited about volunteering at an event that had got these world-class top athletes taking part, and that was, you know, obviously something a bit different from helping out at your average Sunday event, and that was quite exciting for some people. And I hope that we you know, be able to get some youngsters involved in volunteering as well, and so that they can, you know, see some of the, you know, what they can aspire to, if you like, if they carry on with orienteering and really succeed at it.
Catherine, did you have a question?
Anne's actually just mentioned it in terms of getting young people to volunteer. I wonder if volunteering is almost a route to, you know, getting new people to engage itself. And you were talking earlier about the summer camps and, you know, opportunities for parents. That might be getting involved in orienteering, you know, as a sport, but they might also, you know, be hooked in potentially by you know, getting involved in the event. You know, some people like that sort of thing. You know, you just have to look at things like, well, the Comet Games, for example, and how many people pitched out in Glasgow. Okay. So I wonder if the volunteering thing might be part of the wider promotion.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Okay, time is inevitably going faster than I'd hoped it would in this session. I think it would be quite nice to bring up a whiteboard to just think a little bit about the whole marketing publicity side of things. So what the idea here, sorry, I'm just losing my bits of information. I'll share my screen and see if I can set this up. I can't talk and do these things at the same time. Okay, I don't know if people have used these kind of whiteboard things before, but I'm going to put some headings on this. So say, oh, something happening. What we'd like you to do, basically, you should all be able to scribble on this. If you can scribble and talk at the same time, any ideas you have in relation to these kind of headers. So media openings, and then third one is maybe just so how can we use social media in clever ways? Things like use of hashtags, for example. Someone in one of the survey responses mentioned where they were offering, once people had participated in something, if they tweeted a picture of them doing things, they would get entered into a prize draw. So you're kind of increasing your social media presence by giving incentives for people to tell the world about what they've been doing. I like that idea. How can we get better media? Adventure shows proven to be quite good in Scotland for getting one or two things out. Has anyone got contacts for things like that, or good ideas for that? And what are good examples that other sports have done in terms of kind of promotion? Especially, we like a video that British Cycling have put together for the World Championships in Glasgow. I think also, is it 2024 as well? I can't remember, but just a fantastic kind of little film, inspiring film. What can we do? Please throw some ideas on there if you can, or if you'd rather speak out, stick your hand up and we can talk at the same time. Can people actually put anything on here? It's all very quiet.
I'm trying to work out how to do it, to be honest. Like, so.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah, I can't. Did you get a link to the whiteboard? Sorry, I missed that. It was.
I put view options. There's annotate.
Yeah.
And that gives you a toolbar.
Cool.
So you can
yeah, got you.
draw by hand or.
We're trying to be too clever. Does anyone want to just chip something in and we can type it in if you're struggling to type things?
Sarah?
Yeah.
Have you approached other countries, what they've done to promote these sorts of things?
Not yet. That has been raised, and especially in relation to Denmark this year. My feeling was that perhaps they won't have had the best opportunity to do things in the last couple of years, one way or another. So
I know that's the same, but even going further back, to before Denmark and things.
Yeah, although it's not been the same kind of urban context, so I suspect we might be talking slightly different things.
Right. Yeah, even though, because with WOC in Denmark, I know it's not quite the same, but did they do anything there? That sort of thing before that.
Anyone else got any thoughts not to put on there? I like the Louis McMillan idea. It's Alfie, is it Alfie Smith?
Alfie, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I think was it the Swiss or the Austrians? They did a really good video where they had somebody running around the running track.
Yes.
And then they kind of spun off out the running track and did in the forest. But you could easily do that just around urban and.
Yeah, there's certainly been some good videos produced, which I think we could be looking at different types as well. I mean, we could be looking at one that's trying to sell the whole kind of elite end of it and the highly competitive end of sprint racing, and that's maybe not actually for us so much as for WOC themselves, but also just a kind of one that promotes orienteering as a sport and an activity and something that's accessible to anyone potentially.
Some of the health aspects of just getting out and walking. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that's good. There's
the discovering parts of your city you never knew existed.
Yeah. The other one that someone's mentioned, now the name's going to escape me now, is the Beat the Streets. Whether there's ways of hooking in with organisations like that who have been really successful at just reaching lots of people. Can work with organisations like that. What do people think about mapping legacies? It's something that has been raised by a few members as something they would like to see. Do you believe that is helpful in terms of actually developing the sport and getting more people involved?
It certainly makes it easier to just put on little events if you've already got the map of your whole of your city or your town or village to hand as open access for people to plan on.
My feeling is it's probably not the barrier to actually doing things and making them happen. It's more the actual getting activity on the ground. Okay, yeah, so I think there's a few ideas coming in there, and again, people probably need more time to think these things through, but I guess this is just the starting point. I'm going to stop this share for now. It's a starting point, but we need to get moving, I think, to take things forward if we're actually going to be successful with these ideas. Does anyone have any good feelings about next steps that they want to throw in the mix? I'm going to give a very general question right at the end in terms of the things we've discussed, which do you believe are worth carrying forward, but anything completely that we've not talked about that you think is a good idea?
Well, one thing that we were talking about in our group, you know, and it was partly just through Stuart and Martin's sort of comments that, you know, their members don't necessarily know much about it at all. And I think, you know, we spent a bit of time, you know, on that and thinking, you know, basically, I think raising the visibility of WOC, you know, across existing orienteers, you know, that in itself, you know, it's obviously something that is just now being sort of reignited. So it's not to say that they should all know already, but, you know, if we're sort of thinking, how do we basically make the most of this? I think that part of that is getting existing keen orienteers to sort of buy into it and be part of it, and also, you know, I mean, I'm based in Edinburgh, so, you know, I'm really interested in it, but, you know, we want everyone in the UK to be excited about it and to be wanting to be part of it, and, you know, people come up and do the spectator races and volunteer and, you know, just get the most out of it, you know. So I think, in a way, I think if we could maybe build the enthusiasm of existing orienteers, I think that would naturally then lead on to other people, you know, then, you know, just more discussion about it almost.
I think you're absolutely right there, Walter, and I'm getting that feeling that we need more buy-in essentially from our existing kind of members and clubs, and to get them excited if things are going to happen successfully.
Yeah, so I mean, we're just about to start using sticking the WOC logo basically onto
I was going to say that actually, yeah. WOC logo left, right and centre is a good starting point.
Yeah, and we were in touch with Paul McGreal about it, you know, and because we were thinking, well, the WOC logo itself, you know, what does that, you know, mean to even to existing orienteers? And actually there's something again that, you know, Anne and Martin and Stuart and I were talking about, is like, you know, if you see that and you think sprint, you know, if you're a non-orienteer, you just maybe think, what on earth is that? You know, and so whether, you know, and I suppose what I was saying was, you know, I've been on the WOC website, you know, and that's great, and I sort of understand what's likely to be there, and it all makes sense to me. But it's almost like if you're, you know, if you're somebody who's never done orienteering or just a little bit, and you went on, what would it then, you know, almost try and look at it with those eyes, if you like, to think, you know, is it readily understandable what this is? And perhaps it is, but, you know, that's again just part of the sort of trying to, you know, get people interested as to understand what's going on in the first place. So yeah, so we've got a version of the logo that we've got a little thing underneath to say find out more / get involved, and then the website address.
Yeah.
So at least it's like,
yeah,
you know, something a wee bit more than just the logo. And yeah, so Paul's okayed us to use that, and anyone else is very welcome to use that same graphic thing that we've come up with.
Great idea. Roger.
Sarah, did you mention sponsorship a little while ago?
No, I didn't.
No,
but absolutely.
It's a difficult area, of course, but when we were anticipating 2022, I went looking for sponsorship, and I spoke to several local and Scottish-wide, actually, sponsors, because I think it's a great opportunity for Scottish companies to advertise their products internationally. And already at that time, they were saying we were behind the curve, because they make their sponsorship budgets up at least 2 years in advance. So I think, actually, I've had a chat with Paul McGreal about this. I do think we need to get a move on, because it's possible that if you get a sponsor who's prepared to put some sort of flash, the sort of thing Walter's just been talking about, on their products, then that gets out to the public, and people who might be potentially interested to come along and try orienteering.
Yeah.
So I would urge, it's actually a job really for the WOC organising committee rather than the SOA, but I think they should get on with it, quite frankly.
Yeah, I have been in initial discussion with Paul McGreal, not about the kind of things we were talking about earlier, but to make him aware that we were discussing these, and also, you know, to touch base in the sense that, yeah, we have areas like this that we actually need to communicate over, and I agree, well, it may be more central to that for them to lead on. It's important that we do something about it. Lorna.
Can I suggest that maybe you look forward into 2023, where we have existing urban events in the UK, a lot of them are in England, and that you look at maybe rebranding it as something like, I don't know, the Road to WOC or something, so that instead of just the UK Urban League, it becomes something with that goal of Edinburgh 2024.
Yeah, I like that. Simple. We could do the same in Scotland with our Urban League.
Yeah, and another thing we sort of thought about is if we could have, you know, have some sort of Compass Sport Cup, but on an urban basis, to try and, you know, get all the clubs involved and interested and thinking a bit more about competition in sprint orienteering. Yeah. And another thing I'd be quite keen to see what we can do with is trying to use some of our young stars to help with the publicity around the whole thing, particularly, you know, in their home areas where they'll be.
Oh, thank you, Walter.
Very nice. Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah.
You're on mute,
Walter,
Walter.
you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, I was trying to cut and paste it into the chat, but anyway, that's all it is. And it's just like, it's just done in Word, and it's like, it's quite sort of rough and ready, if you like. But I mean, I just cooked that up in a Word document, tried to match the colors, and then, you know, so that's what we're going to use.
If you'd be happy to share that with me, Walter, I can. We can sort of look at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wider circulation. I think it's a nice, simple kind of thing that we can all start to pick up on using stuff like that. Great.
I think I'd suggest that you add the word urban somewhere.
I didn't see the detail of whatever's there, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it doesn't say much, but I mean, I think. Yeah, it's like, well, we were saying again in our discussion group, it was like, is there sort of a need for some sort of strap line, you know, for sort of, I guess, your non-orienteers, because I mean, you know, that is deliberately designed to go on an orienteering map so that people are like, oh yeah, WOC's happening. what's all that about? Oh, okay, I'll go and have a look. And you know, anyone can do that, but they'll already have been orienteering by the time they've seen that. Whereas if you were just to see the logo on something, what does it mean to you? You know, probably not much. And I think, you know, I think it was you, Stuart, that said, you know, it's not clear that it is urban, you know, what's a sprint, you know, but I think there's a limit to how much you can sort of explain it, you know, concisely for that audience. So yeah, I mean, anyway, yeah.
Just a thought, whenever you say urban, I sort of think of just streets. If you're going to be using country parks as well, if you put urban on everything, you might be putting people off. Or people are quite happy to do sprints in country parks. So maybe don't push the urban stuff so hard, because that to me.
Yeah, no, I agree with that actually, because I think like the way I look at it is that, you know, yes, this is a sprint urban event that's sort of almost giving us the platform to get the word out about orienteering, but that should be, you know, in all its forms. You know, it's an opportunity to spread the word generally, not just about urban orienteering. So yeah, I agree with you actually.
I think the key about the urban bit is that we can have the opportunity to take the sport more to an urban audience, that where it is more accessible than traditional forms of it.
Yeah, we're going to promote it and push it, and we're going to want under 16s and over 60-year-olds.
Absolutely.
They both prefer soft surfaces than hard streets, you know what I mean? So it's just trying to be more inclusive.
Okay, we are have run out of time. I don't want to, and other people probably have got things on, so I'm not going to extend on unless anyone has anything sort of really pressing they want to add. I'll give you 2 seconds to stick your hand up now if you have. Otherwise, I shall launch the other poll, which is just to get a little bit of feedback from this discussion that we've had as to, of the kind of things we've been talking about, which ones do you feel are worth pursuing? It's a bit of a yes/no answer to each, but I think it'll be useful just to kind of gauge that from what you've heard. And I realise we've just not had enough time to get into any kind of detail on any of them, but if nothing else, I hope it might have helped get everyone kind of thinking about it. So I'll put that poll up now. I'd like to continue this kind of discussion engagement, and I think we need to think about the best ways of achieving that. Perhaps, yeah. Right, I'm still getting a few answers in. As I expected, everyone has signed up to the publicity and marketing, and it is absolutely so important, and yet something that we seem to find really hard to do. I think we need to up our game one way or another. But okay, that's great. Thanks for your feedback on those. With that, I think I'd just like to say thank you all for giving up your time tonight to come along. If you have anything else you'd like to feed in, please do just drop myself an email, continue discussion, and we'll see how we can carry on to kind of take some of these ideas forward and get more people engaged. And please, everyone, do just start spreading the word amongst your clubs and other members, and let's see what we can do to make the most of the opportunity that's being presented with WOC2024. It would be a shame to miss it. Okay, Rhiannon, you want to add anything to that?
I need to say thank you, Sarah, for putting this all together and providing this opportunity for everybody to feed in on this. I think it's the start of quite an exciting conversation.
Yeah.
And thanks everybody for pitching in all of your thoughts and ideas to get it moving. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Okay. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Later, bye.
Yeah, cheerio.